I'm Stephanie, and this is Kiwi, and let's talk books. So we have made it to the end of the month, and it's time for my December reads wrap-up and my January TBR. I made it through quite a few books in the month of December. Quite a few of these books were for the Winter Magical Readathon hosted by Book Roast. It is still ongoing. It'll continue a little bit into January, but I do have quite a few books that I read for that and some other good books and a couple that I am still working on because I'm filming just a little bit early so I can get these edited and up in a timely fashion. So the first book that I read in December is A New Spring. This is the prequel novel for the Wheel of Time series. We get to follow the mentor character Moraine and also find out how she meets her warder Lan. This is one I listened to on audiobook like I've been doing with the entire Wheel of Time series. It was a nice, short, fun little read. It was great to see a little bit more of this world kind of in a normal situation, not in the impending doom, the world's about to end situation. And I will be talking about this a little bit more in my next Wheel of Time reading update. The next book I finished is The Toll by Neil Shusterman. It is the third book in the Arc of the Scythe series, and it was by far my favorite book of this trilogy. Oh, and there's Finn. So I really loved a lot of the themes of this series. There was a lot of discussion about what it means to be human versus artificial intelligence and religion and death, and I just really enjoyed all of those themes. I really liked that by the end of the series you had really graduated from your sort of stereotypical YA dystopian romance plot, but one set in a really interesting world, to a really broad look at some of the implications of living forever and having to have human beings decide who gets to die, not an AI. And I thought it was really interesting, and I just loved all of the different topics that it brought up. I think that Neil Shusterman did a really great job discussing all of these things and kind of leaving a lot of it open-ended for you to just ponder and think about yourself, rather than him saying, well, this is the issue I want to talk about and this is the opinion I want you to have on it. And I'm really glad that I continued on with the series because the first book didn't really wow me, but the last one was just so good. The next book is Words of Radiance. This is one that I was reading with Elliot Brooks's Stormlight Archive read-along, and I also counted this for my first prompt of Book Roast's Magical Readathon, which was to read a book that included a game, a sport, or a competition. So this book has all three, so do I get extra bonus points? 10 points for Slytherin? Anyways, I will leave Book Roast and Elliot Brooks's channels linked down in the description below if you're interested in checking them out. Stormlight Archive is my favorite series, so this was an amazing 5-star reread. I did my annotated reread like I've mentioned a couple times on my channel, and I loved just having that chance to super nerd out on this book again and to chat about it with a lot of people reading it for the first time. I also read The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. This is the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. I did enjoy The Handmaid's Tale, but I was a little bit hesitant coming into The Testaments because sometimes when an author comes back so much later and tries to write a sequel or a spin-off novel from the original, it just doesn't quite hit right. But I did really enjoy this book. I think it really kind of just developed on a lot of the themes that were originally in The Handmaid's Tale, and I'm definitely glad I picked it up. The only thing that I really don't like about this book is it's a multiple point of view story, but everything's told in first person, and so every time we get to a new chapter, it would kind of take me a while to try and figure out which protagonist are we following, what's their name. There's kind of a little identifying blurb given up at the beginning of each chapter, but it is laid out like it's kind of an anonymous thing. So people are just identified by like a number, like a witness protection type number thing. I don't know how you want to describe it. And I wish that they just would have gone ahead and put the character's name, because then I wouldn't have had to spend the first part of the chapter trying to figure out which character we were talking about. I am really glad that I picked this book up, and I would definitely recommend it if you enjoyed The Handmaid's Tale. The next book is another one for the Magical Readathon. My prompt was to read a book with an orange cover, and I picked Firefight. This worked out really great because I was reading through the Reckoner series, and so I picked up Firefight. I did listen to the audiobook, but the cover is this beautiful orange fire-inspired cover. I do really enjoy this series. It's a really fun YA series with a great male protagonist and a crew of humans who are trying to fight against the superheroes, because in this world, all of the superheroes are evil. And so I finished Firefight and I moved right along to the next book, which is Calamity. This is the final book in the trilogy. I enjoyed the stakes and the story in this book. I really like that, again, we're moving. Each book is set in a different city. So the first one is set in Chicago, the second one is in New York City, and this one is in Atlanta. And I just love the exploration of the world that we get in this series. I appreciate that Brandon really worked to give us a lot of answers. Not everything is 100% answered, but we get a lot of things answered in this series, which is great because I don't believe he's planning on coming back to this world. And the last novel that I finished this month is Thrawn, Treason. It is the third book in Timothy Zahn's new canon Thrawn series. I really enjoyed this book as well. It had been about a year because I read the first two of the Thrawn books in December of last year, and so it had been a year and I was kind of a smidge fuzzy on some of the characters, especially some of the side characters, but I still really enjoyed the series. I could tell there were definitely quite a few references to the Star Wars Rebels TV show. Now, I have not watched the show, but I do know enough about it to be able to be like, oh, okay, he's talking about people or events or things from that show. So I think that if you have seen the Star Wars Rebels show, I think that that would definitely improve your enjoyment of the series, because those references will be more emotional touch points for you than they were for me. But I did really enjoy it, and I would recommend, if you are a Star Wars fan and you are not sure where to start with the new canon Star Wars books, to pick up the Thrawn ones, because they are all really good. I also read 3 graphic novels this month. The first one is The Complete Cheese Sweet Home Volume 4, which was my Winter Magical Readathon book with a purple cover. I have been really loving this graphic novel series. It follows the adventures of a kitten named Chi, who is adopted by this Japanese family, a mom, a dad, and a little boy, and it's just like super, super sweet, and it's just what I need when I just want some like warm, fuzzy goodness in my life. And I read this while I was watching the first season of Game of Thrones, so it was definitely I need some warm fuzzy in my life right now. I have really enjoyed all of the volumes of this graphic novel. I felt like this last one, some of the plot points were kind of the most a stretch, but it's a cute Japanese comic about a kitten. So just read it and enjoy it, and don't think too much about the actual practicalities of it. The next graphic novel that I read is the Faust Act, which is the first volume of Wicked and Divine. This is another one I read for the Magical Readathon, which is to read a book recommended by a friend or booktuber, and this is one that I got a recommendation from Thoughts on Tomes. I will leave her channel linked down in the description below as well. She tends to like things that are a little darker and edgier than I do, so sometimes we both will really like a book and sometimes we won't. This was unfortunately a disagree one. I'm still really trying to find my footing as what I like to read for graphic novels. The sort of plot line of the series is that gods are reborn every so often into human beings, and they live for 2 years as rock stars, pop stars, and then they die. And I thought that sounded really cool. I do really enjoy mythology, and I thought that that was a really cool premise. I just felt like there wasn't quite enough development in this volume. They referenced a whole bunch of different gods and goddesses, and I want to give them props for picking a lot of more obscure ones and not just sticking with your standard like Greek, Roman, Norse, Egyptian, and they really pulled from some other mythological background material. Unfortunately, they didn't really give you a frame of reference for any of these characters, so even if there were some of these gods and goddesses are like, I know I have heard that referenced, but I didn't know what culture they came from, what their, gods and goddesses they were supposed to be of, anything about their mythology, and I would have loved to have had that in there to kind of help me understand what was going on. The only character that I felt I really knew enough about to just be dropped into was the character who was the reincarnation of Lucifer. So unfortunately, I don't think I will be continuing on with the series, but it was good to check out another graphic novel. And the last graphic novel that I read this month is a Sense and Sensibility adaptation. This was my read for the Winter Magical Readathon, a book that starts with S. I have read the original, and it's a story that I really enjoy. I love the movie adaptations. I do love a good Jane Austen, and I really enjoyed this adaptation. I thought that they did a good job of taking a lot of that Jane Austeniness and conveying it in a different medium, which I have found doesn't always work for graphic novels that are based off of books or TV shows or movies. There is a lot of dialogue in here, which I'm learning that I really enjoy. I enjoy graphic novels that have a lot of dialogue and aren't so focused on just art with no dialogue. I did really enjoy that. I thought it was a good adaptation. The art style was not my favorite. I wish it matched the art style of the cover more, because the art style inside is not the same art style. Just want to open to a page. You can see it's a lot harder of an edge and kind of darker. So it wasn't my absolute favorite. It's kind of cute, but I was just expecting this to be on the inside. I have one more Winter Magical Readathon prompt that I need to finish before tomorrow from when I'm filming, and that is to read a book that's under 125 pages, and you would be shocked at how hard it is to find a book under 125 pages. Even my graphic novel was longer than 125 pages, so yeah, I'm gonna have to find something to squeeze in for that, because we got one more week of the Winter Magical Readathon, and I would really like to complete all the prompts on time. I also have 2 books that I'm currently working on, both of which are definitely nowhere near 125 pages. So the first one is Crosswords of Twilight, which is the Wheel of Time book 10. I'm listening to this on audiobook at work. I expect to finish it when I go into work for that last week of January, or last week of December, first week of January. So this will either be done right at the end of December or the very beginning of January. Again, I'm going to do a Wheel of Time reading update when I finish this one and just chat all the things Wheel of Time. I'm also working through Oathbringer, which is the December book for the Elliot Brooks's Stormlight Archive read-through. So, about 60% of the way through. I read about 400 pages yesterday. I'm hoping to get about another 400 pages in today, which means I'll be really close to the end, and hopefully, again, we'll finish this during that last week of December, first week of January, so I can have another book off my read list. Alright, so let's move on to my January TBR. I have quite a few books that I am hoping to read in January, so let's go ahead and jump into the books. So first off, I'm going to be rolling right along into the next Wheel of Time book, The Knife of Dreams, and I'm super excited because this is the first book that most people consider to be on the back side of the slog, so I'm really hoping that the Wheel of Time series starts picking up. I know I'm getting close to the Sanderson books, which means I'm getting close to the end, and I'm really excited. I really want to see how the series ends. I hope it is amazing because it has been quite a long journey. I've got 2 books for my Post-it Note read-along, which I went into detail when I talked about my 2020 reading goals, about reading all of the unread books on my shelves. So the first one is The King's Dragon, which is the first book in the Crown of Stars series. This is a series that I have wanted to read for so long, and I am finally going to commit to it. I don't really know a whole lot about it, except for it is an epic fantasy series, and the covers are really cool. I love the black with kind of the gold like filigree on the corners, and all of the art looks really interesting. So I am definitely looking forward to reading this book. The other one that I have is The Song of Achilles, which is a book that was recommended to me by my little sister. And I want to make a point this year of reading more books that are recommended to me by friends and family. And so this is one that I found for like $1 at my library, and I thought I would pick it up. I don't know a whole lot about it except for it is based on the Iliad, so it'll be Greek mythology. So we will see how I enjoy this one. I would like to read Angel Mage by Garth Nix. Love Sabriel and all of the Old Kingdom series that Garth Nix wrote, and those were books that I loved all throughout high school and college, and I still love now. One of my favorite series about necromancers, and this one is about like angel and demon magic, which sounds really fascinating. I'd be really excited to see what he does with the Brand New World, because I haven't really read a whole lot of his books that take place outside of that one world. So this was a new release in 2019, so I'm very excited to pick this one up. And I have picked out 2 sci-fi novels to go towards my science fiction reading goal. I picked up some Star Wars books. I have the novelization of The Last Jedi, as well as A Crash of Fate, which is a Galaxy's Edge novel. And so I'm really excited to see if these are any good. I do have kind of a hit and miss history with Star Wars, but you know what? I didn't really look up any reviews. I just requested them from the library, and we're going to see. They're both pretty short, so I'm hoping that they're kind of fun, short reads for me this month. And I'm sure I will be picking up a couple of other things along the way, but that is what I'm hoping to read in January. Let me know, what books are you ready to start the new year out with? Thanks for watching!